The call to be anti-racist because simply not being racist in your heart isn't good enough. Hello, good people. My name is Joanna and you're watching the Harmonious.Balance channel. For your consideration today, the call to anti-racism. You know, not too long ago, I remember hearing a white comedian say that the goalpost keeps getting moved. It's no longer enough to not be racist. We now have to be anti-racist. He sounded a bit annoyed. But this video isn't about this particular comedian. It's about the call to be anti-racist and why simply not being racist isn't sufficient. A lot of people have taken to the idea that racism is a condition of the heart, especially on the individual level. And as long as it's not in my heart, then I should be able to move through life with a clear conscience. You know, that is an option for you. Many people operate that way. Is it right? Is it wrong? To me, it's not a question of right or wrong. The question is your heart being in the right place, solving or adding to the present day issues that we're facing? The answer to me is it's not sufficient. But the irritation that this comedian seemed to be expressing is because once upon a time, he seemed to think it was sufficient. Now, truthfully, I don't know that that ever was the case, but I will stipulate that there have been times in history where we have progressed to a point that we could simply pursue happiness with less obstruction. Notice I said less obstruction, not no obstruction. There was a time when liberty and justice for all was a value that the majority of us believed in, even if in word only, because we at least knew that that's what we aspired to as a nation. And it's a wonderful feeling to go through life with little to no cares. I mean, that is the goal, you know. That's the dream of America. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. It's peace. But you know, peace is not automatic. Dr. King said that true peace is not the absence of tension, but the presence of justice. And justice requires intervention. It requires action. History has taught us over and over again that we simply don't evolve for the better because our hearts are in the right place. We fight for change. We fight for justice. You know, there's a scripture that says the law is for the lawless. So that means people don't self-regulate. Y'all, there was a time when taking a life was the answer to everything. And I mean everything, even a little squabble. It had to be settled in a duel. I mean, really, think about that. We had to enact laws to prevent people from taking their disdain for someone to a level of killing them. Our good nature has never been enough. There is a saying that all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I encourage you to take a few minutes to read Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail. He addresses this very point. I'll link it down in the description box. You know, on 9/11, many people were inspired by individuals on the flight of the fourth plane. We learned after the fact that the fourth plane, United Flight 93, was targeted for DC. Instead, it went down near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. It went down because men on the plane took action that thwarted the plot. They answered the call of the moment. And the moment we are in requires a commitment to be against racism, among other things. The moment we are in requires us to be actively pro-justice. Now let's go back to this comedian. In fairness, I didn't listen to the entire interview, so I don't want to paint him as some bratty, privileged white guy. From the portion of the interview that I saw, it sounded like he was grappling with what it means to be on the right side of history, or what it means to be a good person. Now I'm actually going to talk about being a good person in another video, because what does that really mean? We say that a lot, but what does it really mean? But the mere fact that this comedian was able to articulate this says to me that he's grasping the concepts, but now he's finding himself in this place of discomfort. His peace has been disrupted by the moment, and he has to decide if he's going to ignore or accept the call. And that's a spot that many people find themselves in, deciding to ignore or accept the call. I'll close out by saying this. It's a choice to accept or ignore the call. But you should know that being our better selves and accomplishing the greater good requires it. Well, that's all I wanted to share right now. If you haven't watched the other videos on race and racism, the other two videos, being racial versus being racist and the root of racism, please check those out. Of course, race and racism are very, very charged topics, but please know that my intention is never to be messy or controversial. I share these ideas with the goal of impacting our discourse for the better. Please take my thoughts for what they are worth to you, as I simply offer them for your consideration. I'll see you later, good people.